CJ Knows Show.
Hello, this is CJ Zai of the CJ Knows Show, and we want to welcome you to another program of our Visionary series. Today we have iconic human being, amazing person, Terry Brock, who's won the Cavett Award. A speaker not only very well known in the term of our country, but internationally. Entrepreneur, a visionary, real neat guy. Henry, tell us a little bit about
Terry Brock right now is an AI keynote speaker. He goes around and is talking to people and entrepreneurs about artificial intelligence, but he's always been ahead of the curve. I met him back in 2016 when we were doing the Bitcoin radio show, Blockchain Bitcoin. He already was all over that, knew all about it. He was leading conferences and in demand for interviews. Just a few years ago, when Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook was talking about the metaverse and everybody was trying to figure out what, he was already ahead of that and telling his stark raving entrepreneurs how they could incorporate the metaverse and virtual reality into their businesses. And now, again, Terry Brock, you can find him at terrybrock.com or on YouTube at Stark Raving Entrepreneurs. He's ahead of the curve again because he's telling not just the big investors or the Fortune 500 companies how they can incorporate artificial intelligence into their daily work life and daily life, but he's helping the startup entrepreneurs, the mid-sized entrepreneurs do it. And that's why he's here today with us.
That's amazing and awesome. Mr. Brock, Terry, I travel the world and have had business in Latin America, particularly in Colombia recently. Mm-hmm. And it seems like when I studied what's the difference between Latin America and the United States, why are we so productive when, for example, South America had more natural resources historically, from oil to gold to what have you. Why aren't they producing? And when I did a little research in the early 1900s, we had like 28,000 banks in this country loaning to the average guy. And then we protected something like patents. So if you could invent something, you could actually get paid for it. While in Mexico at the same time, there were like 45 banks. 2 banks had 60% of the money. In other words, the system in Latin America protects the wealthy. But in our country, we seem to be more entrepreneurial and celebrate the entrepreneur. Do you think that's possible? Am I on the right track? What is your opinion of that entrepreneurship and how it develops a democracy and how it helps an economy?
Absolutely, I agree with you. And by the way, thank you for having me on. It's an honor to be here. But I think it's that entrepreneurial spirit that was ingrained in Americans from the beginning. America's got its problems. Yeah, we're human beings, and there's been a lot of things that we've done egregiously wrong, but there's also a lot of good. And the entrepreneur spirit that you can do it if you're willing to put in the time, the money, and the energy, your brain and your brawn, you should be able to achieve what we've called the American dream. Again, it's not perfect, but as you look at where we are on planet Earth, it's really good. I love the fact you're in Colombia. I had a chance to be in Colombia just a little while ago. A guy named Carlos Slim from Mexico asked me to come down and keynote opening session, some of the richest people there.
Carlos Slim is like big time.
Yeah. He was the richest man in the world from 2010 to 2013. But and then I got a chance to meet Ivan Duque. I was the scheduled to be opening. He was the closing. He was the current president of Colombia at that time.
Sure.
I got a chance to see him and talk with him. But Colombia is doing a lot of things right. I'm concerned about where they are right now. But
right now I wouldn't agree with that. But before, yes.
Yeah, before Ivan Duque, I think it was good. I was listening with the headphones on as he spoke in Spanish. My Spanish is really, really bad. But it was interesting to hear it. But I think the whole idea of letting people achieve what they want, as long as they're not harming someone else, you don't hurt others, you don't take their stuff, and you live your life freely. I think we see some hope in Latin America now, in Argentina. And what's happening with
you think that's going to really be a positive, huh?
I think it's a real positive. A good buddy of mine is down there. He was a person that helped introduce Malay to the concept of a free market, which is why he calls himself an ANCAP. The two of them know each other. My buddy knows him. And I said, what's he like really, one-on-one? He said, he's real. He's real.
Let me ask you, because I know we could go take this 20 different ways.
We could talk for 20 hours. Yeah, I love it.
But no, I'm already learning something, and I'm just curious. I've been very disturbed of Elon Musk recently. I'm not talking about him, the person, but the fact that a man can control satellites, the space industry, inflation with food, 3 corporations that own all the food companies in the country. And I just want to know from you, from your understanding of free market and business, back when I thought the United States was really rocking, my dad's generation, they even though he disagreed with me, I'm sure, if he were alive, but they put restrictions on companies controlling everything. You know, like in '07, the banks are too big to fail. We have to bail them out because, you know, if one of those fail, it destroys our economy. You know, we used to, what's it called? We used to put, we wouldn't allow companies to dominate a market. It was because we believed in competition. And now there's so less in competition anymore, like in the food industry. Tell me about your opinion regarding that and small entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs competing against it versus big, huge corporations that own everything in that particular industry and the lack of competition. Is that something to worry about or not?
Oh, I'm aware of that. And I think you raised some very good points. We don't want dominant players cutting off supply for food or anything else from people. But we have found historically, throughout history, whatever the country is and wherever we are, the more you give freedom to people, the better they do. And when we have government coercing to keep these entities protected, like they did with, look at AT&T and what they did for years and years, they protected AT&T. And when they finally said, okay, you're going to get to compete, look what happened. We're now using our cell phones. We've got more going on right now. You and I are connecting with StreamYard right now, technology that has come out because of innovation. Entrepreneurs that said, hey, we can do this, we can make some money. That's a good thing. And they went out and explored how to do it. They had some competition called Restream, and they have some competition from Ecamm and others here with StreamYard. But I think that's good. What they're doing, what we're seeing now is a classic example of trying to protect and help people, all in the name of helping the people. Look what happened in Argentina.
My concern is the monopolies and the idea that one company can dominate everything, and then it kills the competition. And because I believe in competition, I believe.
Oh, I agree.
You know, if you have several people trying, or businesses trying to get that business, they'll come up with a rate that is fair. It won't get.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think up to a point, though, I think we need competition in all industry except mine. You know, I don't want any competition. That's the only exception I make to it. I'm just kidding. But really, competition is good because we're trying to get ahead. And when we find the way we have these big monopolies, it's usually like 99% of the time, they've been protected by government, because now they can channel money to their favorite politician, and the politicians are happy to accompany them with certain laws to say, oh, no one can compete. We're doing it for the good of the people. You put that little phrase in there. And
in politics, the dark money, we don't know. I think during Barack, the Supreme Court said, you know, corporations are people, basically. Their money flows. I mean, guys with money control. I mean, it's always been that way. I mean, it's nothing surprising, but
only for a few 100,000 years, though.
I'm sorry?
Only for a few 100,000 years.
Yeah, but you know, our nation was a little different. You know, we didn't believe in the kings and the queens. You know, we tried to put separation of church and state. I think we went a different route than like Spain did in South and Central America. We did it differently, and that's why we've led so much in this world economically and so forth. And
yes,
you know, I'm worried that we're going to slip back into what others have done, and it'll destabilize us, and we won't be as powerful or strong or opportunistic as we used to be. You know?
Oh yeah, and not only just be as strong as we are, but the average person will have a lifestyle much worse, because we've seen this demonstrated. I think the idea of the separation of church and state you mentioned, as you know, you're the lawyer, I am not. That's not in the Constitution, but it was in the Danbury Baptist letter that Thomas Jefferson had. But I agree with that, because we need that to say, wait a minute, you do whatever religion you want to do, as long as you're not harming someone.
Yeah, you know, we were talking, and I don't want to get into discussion of Roe v. Wade and all that, but the idea was the right of privacy. Having government stay out of your business and literally your body, it should be the same way in your business. You know, we should be allowed to be entrepreneurial, to reap the rewards that we've invested into to make stuff happen. I don't, you know, it's funny, people have called me a communist, and I said, are you crazy? You know, I like driving.
It doesn't sound communist to me, what you're saying.
No,
I mean, what you're saying sounds very much more oriented toward freedom. That you have the right to do whatever you want, use your imagination, whatever, as long as you take responsibility. Don't take a fork and stab yourself in the leg. And I'm saying, CJ, don't do that. You get hurt. And then you say, now, Terry, you got to pay for my hospital bill. No. And don't hurt others. Don't take their stuff. You do that, we're going to get along real well, live peacefully. That's the key.
I'm with you. Henry, what do you got?
Yeah, let me take you back to AI here for a minute, or at least take you to AI.
Yeah,
but in the context of what you were talking about, because Terry, so much of the AI, and we've had entrepreneurs of a larger scale on the show before, and they talk about the large language models and the amount of data that you have to get. And now you have the biggest companies like reading everything that's available out there and having to be able to license it from, I don't know, like Getty Images, the visuals. They can afford to license from them, but the average small entrepreneur can't. Aren't we going to just jumpstart the AI with big conglomerates or big players that control all the data?
Well, Henry, I think you raise a very good point. We don't want those big companies just controlling everything that's out there. But the beauty of it is with AI, the average person now has more power than ever. For instance, example, as a professional speaker, I've known for years and agree with the concept they've talked about, you don't take pictures from other people. So let's say, Henry, you take a picture of something. Well, if I were to take that picture, call it my own and use it in a commercial endeavor, not only is that illegal, but it's immoral. That would be wrong to do. But today, because we have the technology like DALL-E 3, that is available, owned by OpenAI, and many others that are out there as well, Ideogram and many others that are real good. You can create your own images that are yours, and you have. I have a friend who's a copyright lawyer. He says the more creativity you can put into it yourself, the more it is uniquely yours. So Henry, you raise a very good point, but now with AI, we can give power to that individual, say solopreneur, or those who don't have the power that the big companies can do. And frankly, we can outrun them because they have large corporations. They can't move as fast.
Back in the day when the guys were selling ice in New York, they had the ice business, and somebody invented the freezer and the fridge. It just destroyed that business. It feels like that's technology has accelerated this.
Yes.
I used to just spend a lot of time on planes. I have an office in Minnesota for my law practice. If I have to do depositions, I had to do it live. If I have to do mediations, they're live. The conference room, with attorneys, everybody traveling, and this, that. Now, after COVID, it seems like it was accelerated. The Zoom, the technology, everything is changing. And it's almost at such a frightening pace. While I agree, it will help small businesses that are tapped into that. But I think there's a lot of businesses that may be left behind, and people that are left behind if they don't get on board quickly.
I agree with you, and history would back you up as well. Look at people who had been doing, say, shoeing horses around the year circa 1890, 1900, and they were shoeing horses. Their daddy did it, their granddaddy did it. They will always need that. They had to change. And as much as we're sorry that they lost their job shoeing horses, hey, there's other things they can do. We got this thing called automobiles, and they need people that can have skills like you. And so we've seen this throughout history. It's hard when you lose that, but we get our opportunities now to open up, and that's where we need to focus. So
you're a big AI guy. You believe it's coming. I know it's going to revolutionize the law field. I mean, but if I look at it, we have a recent case with thousands and thousands of pages of medical documents, and I'm no doctor, and we have to read these and figure out what was said, or hire a doctor to read them, or a nurse that is sophisticated and knowledgeable in this. And with the AI, it correlates it, puts it together, gives you a summary. It's amazing. But
absolutely. For instance, there are released 7,000 peer-reviewed medical journals every day. Of the year. No medical person, no matter how smart she is or he is, they're not going to be able to keep up with it. But AI can. And so what we can do is we can take, CJ, you go to your physician, a real bona fide doctor, so physician, and can say, let's look at that. We're going to look not just at here's what most people do, but based on your gender, your weight, your medical history, all the peculiarities about you, it can come up with a much better prescription to say, most people would take this, but you need this. And a physician would be able to get that information from AI because it's cranking through this much faster than we can, reading those 7,000
you
publications.
think it's going to be where I'm going to have the ability to look it up myself and self-prescribe in some
I
form.
think we have that now, but what you would do,
Times,
yeah, but I would not recommend self. I would say you use that. You get the information. You ask, by the way, you can ask Chat GPT and Perplexity, please tell me the medical term and translate it into English that a
Right.
10-year-old would understand.
Yes.
Then you take that to your physician and say, doctor, what do you think? Here's what I came up with. Because the doctor can look at it and go, CJ, that's true and true, but why? It didn't say anything about this. And I know about that. You shared that.
You don't even have to do it with your own doctor. Just think in the legal profession, if you're a personal injury person or you're trying to explain to a jury, even if it's criminal, whatever, some medical terms, you've got to make your argument to the audience you have, and there's very few people that understand. You read the medical terms and it's like, what? I didn't study Latin.
Exactly.
So, and how do you make it into plain English? And it does make sense. There's so many things to help different professions, the legal profession, all the other professions as well. I can't even imagine the potential and possibilities AI has.
Yeah, it's going to be incredible because I'm using that. I'm not a lawyer. I took one course in business law in the MBA program. One course does not qualify you as a lawyer, so I'm not, but I had a contract come through recently as a professional speaker, a company I'm looking at working with, and here was their contract legal. Well, I thought, let me just see what it's like. I ran it through Perplexity, said, act as a lawyer who understands contract and labor law. And so giving it access to that, it came back in literally, CJ, about 20 seconds and told me, this is a concern, this looks good, this okay. And all of that was identified for me in the area I was working was okay.
But how do I even know, Terry, you're Terry Brock and you're not an AI program? I mean, is that going to happen? I mean,
it could.
You put your mind in there and then boom, you're the one on Zoom talking.
Yeah, we can tell. Right now, it's easier to tell because we're not as good. But right now, AI is the worst that it will ever be because it's getting better all the time. So someday that's going to be there, but it can be. Like, for instance, like one thing I use in my courses when I'm speaking, CJ, pretend that you are now president of the United States. We just, we did it, whatever, you're there, you're in the Oval Office. Suddenly, your most trusted advisors burst through the door and they say, Mr. President, we have a serious problem. Turn on this channel. Here it is. And you see Vladimir Putin saying, I've had it. I am launching missiles in the next 10 minutes to destroy New York and Los Angeles. What do? Do you know that that's him or is it AI? You only have a couple of seconds. So you think, what are we going to do? And this is not a hypothetical thing. This is something that could happen. However, those that are way smarter than me in AI are saying what we need to do there is you train AI models to detect that so that it can say, wait a minute, that is not Vladimir Putin. That's only a 98.737% accuracy or something like that. So we can start seeing what's there. We need AI to work with us to protect us from AI. I think that's
I just leave. I know Henry wants to get in, but what scares me is that when I've seen Congress dealing with Meta or Facebook or whatever companies, they're clueless. I mean, they're guys that are my age and older, and they have no clue what they're dealing with. And
exactly,
I'm very worried that the government's going to get it wrong in legislating things that we probably really need with AI.
Oh yeah, well they're used to that. They do that all the time. What is it? Milton Friedman said it really well. Government starts out with really good intentions, but ends up with very poor results. And unfortunately, we've seen that happen way too many times.
I'm with you. Henry?
Well, I've been listening to you all discuss the big issues. And of course, we know that Terry has his YouTube channel, Stark Raving Entrepreneurs, that help people get involved in AI. But I want to take a step even back from that and bring it to people that maybe just have stumbled upon this video and said, well, I'm curious about it. I don't know anything about it. So let me do a two-part question, Terry. So first of all, Google has Gemini, we've got Chat GPT, Microsoft has Copilot. How would you have someone get familiar with using AI, not yet to the entrepreneurial stage, but just how can I use it? Why don't I just Google, what else do I need to do? And then secondly, when you deal with these new entrepreneurs that are coming to you to find out how to use it in their business, what did they want to start with?
Yeah, I think those are very important. Well, first of all, I would say, what do you want to do with it? Get to know it. If you know nothing about it, start with what's free. There's a lot free. You can get a free account of ChatGPT. That's the most popular one, owned by a company called OpenAI. Get a free account there. Get a chance to look at it. And how are we going to learn that? Well, the place we do today is we go to the University of YouTube, because you can go there, see all kinds of videos on all different topics, and don't look at just one. Some of them are going to disagree with each other. That's okay. Use critical thinking. We're going to look at all these different, find someone that you can trust. Find a group that you can work with, people that you can work with on YouTube and elsewhere, and work with that. And then I think what you want to do is you want to find out your goals. Start with the end in mind. Stephen Covey said that really well years ago. I remember I got a chance to work with him down in Buenos Aires once we were speaking together. But he talked about begin with that end in mind of what you want to do as an entrepreneur. Then find what's out there. Have an open mind and realize our world is changing more rapidly now than ever. It can be scary. But if we adapt ourselves to it, we, as the Marines say, improvise, adapt, and overcome. When we can do that, we're going to be able to learn, have a curious mind, and be willing to look at what's out there. And like you said, there's a lot of different tools out there with Gemini from Google. We have ChatGPT. I tend to like Perplexity. Claude is really good. Claude 3, particularly the sonnet flavor of that. So those things might be confusing. Don't worry about it. It's kind of like back in the days of the internet. I would say, well, you can go in the early days, back in the early 90s. I'd say, well, the URL is http://terrybrock.com. They go, speak English, because they didn't understand it. Well, it's just a matter of learning those words. Like CJ, you know wonderful words that are legalese that I would go, huh? What in the world is that? But we can hear the word and then say, now tell me what that means. And ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini can all give us a translation that a 10-year-old would understand. I like to use that phrase.
Terry Brock was a stark raving entrepreneur. Terry, I got a question for young people. If what is your opinion? I mean, if a young person is studying, basic school, I'm finding out is it doesn't teach you a whole lot. I mean, as far as investing and all this, it just basic math, science, and basic things, interpersonal skills, I guess. What would you advise a young person to study? I mean, particularly for college, or even if you think college is important, what should a person be studying for the future, for today and tomorrow?
I think that's a very important question. I wish we had like 4 hours to go over that, but let me give you a real quick. A few years ago, I would have said programming is really good. Today, CJ, you know what the #1 programming language in the world is today?
No, don't know.
English. English. You create the prompt and then let the AI turn it into Python, C++, JavaScript, whatever.
So it does it for you.
It does it for you. So I would say for a young person, learn about life, read history, study what people have done, learn to communicate, learn to get along with people, use a variety of these, not just ChatGPT, but I'd use Perplexity and maybe another. In journalism, they told us you want to get 3 non-corroborating sources. I hear one person say it, I go, oh, that sounds interesting, but I'm not going to publish that and say, this is the truth. Well, let's check it out. Here's someone else that doesn't know this other person. They sound pretty reasonable. Okay, I got 2. Hey, it's a coincidence. Get a 3rd one over here. It's a trend. We say that tongue in cheek. Well, a trend, 3 could be wrong, but you want to get multiple sources and keep questioning. Always question and listen to several different sources to learn. And I would say start reading a lot. By reading, you gain tremendous amount of information, and then listen a lot. Go to the University of YouTube and look at a variety of different opinions. I like to look at what the far left is saying, what the far right is saying, all kinds of opinions in between, so that I can then make up my own mind based on the data that's available.
I throw a curveball in all this. You're Gringolandia, you're from Orlando, I guess. You see this division in the people in our country. I mean, how do we get this back on track? I used to love when Reagan and Tip O'Neill would spar in the halls of the Congress or in our government, but yet they'd go have a beer afterwards. It seems like that we're on the same team, but we forget that sometimes.
Classic. And what Reagan and Tip O'Neill did, I think, is a model for us. We can disagree on methodology. Ultimately, I think we all want the ultimate end good, that people will have a better life. Better homes, they have food, we got better medicine. We want that. It's how do we get there? And I think we have to
get to with AI and this technology is sort of to blame for this. Is it not?
I think what we have to do is remember it's very important to be civil. That the old phrase that we've heard so many times, I might disagree with you, but I will defend to the death your right to say what you're saying. so that we stand up where people can say what they want. We listen, and we start listening and step back from this side is all bad, this other side is all good. No,
Last
we're
thing,
all
Terry,
people.
I really, this is, I remember the day as you do, and you probably have a better memory than me. I used to know everybody's phone number
Yeah.
because, there was no way to put it in my phone. I could count change back. I mean, we had 6 guys on one register, busy all day, and we'd balance to the penny, and we all were taught how to count change back.
Yeah.
We don't do any of that today. I mean, I could take you from here to Pittsburgh and not look at a map almost, and now I can't go down the block without using my GPS. Aren't you afraid that part of the problem we have in our society today is that people are relying on everything? I mean, you're learning. We're from a similar generation or era
Yes.
where you're taught to think and you're a journalist, it sounds like. So you're taught to question things, and you're going to look at everything, and then you're going to say, hey, this makes sense or this doesn't make sense. But I'm really concerned that we're growing a generation of imbeciles that don't think. I mean, they just follow whatever is in front of them. They believe stuff without doing the research they need to what you're talking about.
That's a strong word to use, and I would have to say you're right, sir. What you're saying there is something, but I would say here's what I would say to the viewers and the listeners right now. Expose yourself to alternative points of view. Listen to those that you might want, but also hear what the other side is saying. Honestly, listen and ask questions. What do they believe? Here's a good way to do it, by the way. Get Perplexity. Perplexity is a great little tool. You get the free version, and then you can select a focus so that you focus on maybe writing, or you focus on mathematics and algorithms, or you focus on social media like Reddit. So now you can go out to Reddit and find out what are people saying about hot controversial topic on this side and on that side. Read both sides. Don't watch just one kind of television. You want to watch several. Expose yourself to a variety of different opinions so you can look at it and realize, I don't know about you, CJ, but when I was 18, I knew it all. At least I thought I did. And I found since 18, I've changed my mind on some very important concepts of how we live our lives in philosophy based on new evidence.
Well,
So
the more we know, the more you open your mind, the more you realize you don't know.
Yes,
and
sir.
I was talking to my wife the other day that I love people who are ignorant to the world. They have their view. Sorry, mostly is wrong, but they really buy into it and they live very happy. How can you be happy? Imagine, how do I get happy when I know what's happening around me? It's scary, but
well, he'll be happy if he mentions Gina Carr before he signs off.
Well, that's what makes it.
Exactly. That's my fiance and my business partner, Gina Carr, who helps me a lot. It's wonderful working together. Sometimes there's a little challenge, but it's also wonderful.
It's always the challenge when they're your close friends, if you know what I mean. Stark raving entrepreneur, Terry Brock, a visionary extraordinaire. Thank you. Terry, has been awesome speaking with you, and I hope we do get together in the future. I could learn a lot, and I'd like to come and hear you speak.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. An honor to be with both of you guys.
The CJ Knows Show.